another day, and you don't have to hide away. You'll be my boy, but for now it's time to run. It's time to run.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the School of Science podcast episode. I'm not sure because I can't stay up to date with the episodes. 29 is the episode. You've already heard him, but let's introduce him anyway. Welcome, Jake White, to the episode.
G'day, big fella. How you going?
I'm good, mate. It's very interesting you getting some words in before introducing you. I thought, hey, this is a bit awkward. But you know what? The show must go on, Jake. The show must go on. We're here today to discuss a somewhat disappointing result against Leicester, to say the least, yeah. As well as have a look at our upcoming Europa League tie against Lyon, which is sure to be a easy-ish game. But nonetheless, let's first and foremost, Jake, talk about Leicester, because that was an interesting game in different ways. I thought, from a personal point of view, that the start of the game, initially anyway, it wasn't too bad. Then they scored twice, so that wasn't ideal. But the second half was quite good, in a way, without creating too much, but controlling the game as such, even though they probably had the best opportunities in the second half. But for the most part, a controlled performance. We look back to the high moments in that game. Aaron Lennon probably should have shot instead of passing to Calvert-Lewin. That's at 1-0. If he scores, that goes to 1-1. And might have been a different outcome on the game. But as it was, Leicester were far too clinical. And our defence wasn't up to scratch, which is unfortunate. Goals to Jamie Vardy, who I wish we'd signed. And also a John Joe Kenny own goal, which was unfortunate, but something he'll hopefully learn from. What was your take on the game as such?
It was just frustrating because, like I'm glad that we didn't do this podcast straight after the game like we did with the Arsenal game, because I was pretty pissed off after the game. But after sitting on it and I've watched a replay of the game too, overall we weren't that bad. It's just the first goal pissed me off the most because, like, John Joe Kenny's own goal, it was just one of those ones where he'll learn from it and stuff, and it's just a freak own goal. Like, there's not much you can do about that. And overall, watching the game properly without the actual emotions of what's going to happen next, I reckon we were the better team. But at the end of the day, Leicester got a 2-0 result. And the first goal pissed me off because it's so simple. You just need to take the player down. They went from one side of the pitch to the other in 11 seconds. Sure, that's pretty fast. But at the same time, all we need to do is take down Demarai Gray. And we just reset. Take the yellow card and move on. I know it's early in the game. You don't really want to spend the rest of the game on a yellow card. But it's better than copying the goal. And that's what pissed me off most. And obviously we should have got a penalty when it was I think it was 1-0 at that stage. We should have a penalty. No, one of the most blatant. It's Stonewall. I don't know how the ref has missed that, and it's one of those ones. And I was watching Optus Sport last night when they were recapping the games, and they spent about 15 to 20 minutes on Everton versus Leicester, and there was a situation about 3 minutes before that penalty shout where Lennon was yelling at the ref, abusing the ref. And the people on the sport basically put it down to the fact where Lennon spent 2 minutes before that prior abusing the ref. So the ref isn't exactly, as blatant as it is, it should be a penalty, 100%. I'm seeing a trend in sports, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, footy, rugby, whatever, where players aren't getting rewarded if they're going after the ref, if that makes sense. So,
is that
say
the case?
Lennon
Because
doesn't.
you look at Chelsea do it a lot, and Man United do it a lot, how they're often crowding the referee and getting in their ear. And they seem to be rewarded with penalties and
Oh, that's a big team situation. I could go on that for about half an hour. Big teams always get rewarded ahead of. I'm not saying Everton aren't a big team, then I'm not saying Leicester are a big team either, but like on the Chelsea, United, Liverpool situation where they get penalties nearly every second weekend,
Sydney
that's a
FC.
big team situation. Yeah, honestly, it's a big team situation, and I'm not saying the refs are biased towards big teams, but in those sort of situations, the ref's going to have more scrutiny if he doesn't give a penalty against a team like Chelsea, United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, City, more so than what he will be if he misses a penalty against Liverpool, Everton. So like, it's one of the like it should have been a penalty. It's Stonewall, and then they go up the other end of the pitch, and John Joe Kenny somehow puts it in the back of the net, and it's just one of those. It's just so deflating because we reacted to the first goal really well. We started to create a few chances, and we should have scored. Obviously, we had the penalty, we had the Calvert Lewin chance as well, and then they go up the other end, and then they score. And
so it's a very, if there was any game to sort of summarize a lot of our season, I feel like this was it. We haven't been disastrous in a lot of our games. Yes, in the games we versed good teams. Apart from Man City, we were quite poor. But in different games, we haven't been totally bad, but we've just been very, very unlucky in a lot of situations. And this, to me, if we had a bit of luck, if Lennon had a bit of composure, if we'd get given a penalty, if we capitalised just one of our chances that we should have, then it's a game that we win. And that's a different story altogether. So
yeah, and I've just gone through the stats as well, and I watched the game yesterday afternoon when I got over from work, and we were good in patches, but especially the second half, we created a few chances, but we created a few chances without really testing anyone, and I thought Unsworth did get the team selection wrong in the sense where I think Lennon shouldn't have started, but at the same time, Lennon was really our only outlet that was really
Lennon
creating
was very,
many
very
chances.
good.
Yeah, and I thought he was all right, but at the same time, I can't wrap my head around the fact, and I know it's obviously not Unsworth signing, but I can't wrap my head around the fact that Gylfi Sigurdsson, who people say has been bad, but Gylfi Sigurdsson so far in the Premier League this season per minute, or being on the pitch, has created the most chances in the Premier League per minute that they've been on that the player's been on the pitch, and he's sitting on the bench, and we're playing Wayne Rooney as the number 10, and I love Wayne Rooney, but he shouldn't be starting. And I thought as well, and it's sort of torn me because I had, and I still think that Morales and Lennon should have stayed on, but at the same time, Benigni was fantastic when he came on. Niasse was good, and he created a presence, but he didn't really do much. But I thought Benigni was very good, but at the same time, I think it should have been Rooney that should have come off for one, and one of Davies and Idrissa that came off. In my opinion, I thought Davies was very, very poor, and I'm one of Davies' biggest fans. So I thought he was very, very poor in this game, and I think he should have been dragged at half time. I thought Morales and Lennon were very good in the first half, so I just didn't understand why, unless something happened in the change room at half time, I don't understand why they were both taken off.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I remember seeing and watching the game, the commentator saying there were 2 subs at half time, and I was fully expecting one of those to be Dom Davies. So I was pretty surprised. When I saw Lennon, I was like, all right, he's taking Lennon and Davies off. And then I saw Morales, and I was like, well, yeah, not too sure.
It just killed any width, and in that sense, like, I could see what he was trying to do in a way, because we effectively played 2 at the back the second half, because Baines and Kenny were basically playing as right mids and left mids the whole second half, which did catch us out in the break a few times without Leicester really troubling us all that much.
Well, I think Unsworth knew that they were going to sit back and try to preserve their 2-0 lead. And they did.
100%.
So, but at the same time, it would have been nice to have that sort of outlet ball, really stretch the defence more than relying on Kenny and Baines to stretch
and I thought Sigurdsson was good when he came on as well, but I just don't understand why, unless Unsworth is which we shouldn't be, as much as I love European competition, where right now we're in a relegation scrap, so we should be focusing more so on the league. And it's just, I thought Sigurdsson was good when he came on. Benigni was fantastic. I would honestly start Benigni against Lyon if he's allowed to be put in the squad. I'd start him against Lyon.
Under 21s are allowed to be put in.
Yeah. So I'd honestly start him against Lyon because the more he plays, the more confidence. He's like Kenny. Because I thought Kenny was pretty good, in my opinion. Like, I know that he scored a free-going goal, but I thought Kenny was pretty good on Monday morning. But it's just... And that's going to happen because Kenny will probably start against Lyon as well. And the more games you get into him, the more confidence he's going to get. And
it's the more experience. You look at things like this, but if you take him conceding an own goal like that, if to benefit his career, then anything else, realistically. So early on, you'd hope he'd learn from this mistake. Yeah,
and that's why I'm, as much as he's not doing too much right now, that's why I'm content with just lobbing Calvert-Lewin up front every single week, because there's going to be a game, I have no doubt in the world, especially with our run coming up. I think Watford is starting to drop off a bit, and we've got Palace, West Ham, and someone else who isn't too good in our next 4 games in the league. I think Bournemouth. No, not Bournemouth. We've already played Bournemouth. I'm not too sure. Yeah, well, there's someone. I'm not too sure. I think that one of those games, Calvert-Lewin will bag what, and that'll give him the world of confidence as well.
He just needs one. Realistically, he just needs one.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I know he got that goal against Chelsea, but, like, he didn't even mean it, basically. Like, it just fell to him and he just bundled it into the net. Like, he just needs one of those goals where he's put through when he's one-on-one with the keeper and he slots it in and then he runs off to the away bay and...
Rosenbrock.
Like, very similar. Like, dead set. Like, he just needs one of those ones because he's a fantastic finisher. If you give him a chance, there's a huge chance of putting it in the back of the net. Like, he's not that high on confidence right now since he had that open header saved on the line against Applewell or whatever their names are.
Yeah.
The Applewell or whatever the fucking name are. And yeah, so the more confidence he gets, if he scores a goal or two here and there, he'll get more confidence and he could take us forward. But at the same time, we do still need that striker in January, obviously. And apparently, literally January 1, we're going to inquire about strikers all over the world. So thank God for that. But it's one of those ones where it's so clear what we're lacking right now. Because I think our midfield's been all right lately. Like, I think Idris is starting to find form. We're getting Benigni in and about there, and he's really good for us. Davies was very poor, but I think Davies is starting to sort of cement that spot alongside a defensive midfielder. Obviously, we want Schneiderlin to come back in eventually, not both Idris and Schneiderlin starting, but we want him to have confidence whenever he's called upon as well. McCarthy's coming back from injury. We've got Sigurdsson, who's I think is starting to come good. So our midfield's starting to get there, but we've got to start getting clean sheets for one. I don't remember the last time we got a clean sheet. And
no, I'm trying to think. I don't think we can remember either.
I honestly cannot remember. Yeah, I reckon Sunderland probably was the last time we got a clean sheet. And realistically, if we had have conceded against Sunderland, then we would be struggling. So, like, we conceded 2 to Leicester, 2 to Chelsea, 5 to Arsenal, 2 to Lyon, 1 to Brighton, 1 to Burnley, 1 to Apollon, 2 to Apollon, 1 to Bournemouth, and none to Sunderland. And then 4 to United, 3 to Atlanta, 3 to Tottenham, 2 to Chelsea, 1 to City. So our last league clean sheet, we've had 1 league clean sheet all season. It was against Stoke in the first game.
Yeah. Doesn't bode well, does it?
It doesn't at all, and it can't go down to Pickford as well, because I think Pickford's been our best player so far this season. And if you look through that, like you look through the goals we're conceding, you'd think, oh, geez, they need a new goalkeeper or something like that. But it's the last thing we need right now.
We need a centre-back partner for Keane.
Yeah, and the worst thing about Leicester was the fact that Keane was watching it in a hospital. And there's nothing that was said about that either. Like, I don't understand. Everyone was expecting Keane to start, including myself, including you, including probably 99% of Everton fans. And then he posts a photo 30 minutes before kickoff and he's sitting in a hospital bed. And you're sitting there like, what? Like, when I saw the team sheet and I saw Williams and Jagielka and there was no Keane on the bench, I thought Keane may have had like a falling out with Unsworth or something. And it's just, there's no communication with that as well. Because everyone was fuming and was like, where the fuck's Keane? And then he's in a hospital bed. And you're just sitting there like if he's not fit, obviously, and he needs to be in hospital, you don't expect him to play. But the best thing that could happen realistically is at least communication from the club onto what is actually happening. Because it's not like he would have travelled to Leicester and then he's ended up in like Leicester's hospital or something like that. So
yeah, they would have known previous.
Oh, exactly. It's not that difficult. Like, Unsworth had a press conference for how long? Like the day or two before the game, and nothing was said about Keane. So, we should have won. Like, honestly, when you look at the stats, and I watched a replay, we should have honestly won. They had probably 3 clear-cut chances, and the main thing for me right now, if there's any positivity to take out of the games, is we're actually starting to have attempts at goal. Like against Chelsea, we had 15 attempts at goal. Against Leicester, we've just had 15 attempts at goal. So not on goal, but like at goal. So we've had 30 shots in the last 2 games, where probably Koeman's last 6 games, we probably had 10. So
well, yeah,
at least we're starting to create things.
You look at the stats from earlier in the season, we had the least amount of shots on goal. So we've definitely improved in that area.
And we had 10 corners as well, so we're starting to get
this
there.
weekend
so
in the Premier
obvious.
League we had I think it was the 4th most shots on goal.
Yeah, so it's so obvious, and people are losing their heads. Like, I honestly do not think we're in a relegation scrap right now, in my opinion. Like, I know people think we are, and I completely understand why people think we are, but I don't think we are. We're sitting 18th, and if we win a game, we move up to 13th. Like, it's simple as that. Like, it does sound simple. We've got to win the game first, but at the same time, if we come out and beat Watford this Sunday night, we could move ourselves up to 14th, and then we have teams against games against we have Palace away, Southampton away, and West Ham at home, Huddersfield at home over our next 4 games, and they're 4 very winnable games, and it won't happen. But just say we come out and win 3 of those 4, we'll be sitting around 10th. Like, we're not in a relegation scrap right now. If we're sitting about 17th, 18th, 19th after the Huddersfield game, then I'll start shitting myself. But right now, there's no need to shit ourselves, because we all know we have Barkley, Balassi and Coleman all to come back within the next 3 to 4 weeks as well, because there was photos circulating that Balassi is back into 110% full training, but they're not going to risk him before the international break. Barkley's getting back into full training this week, I think, and Coleman will get back into full training over the international break. So it's not...
They're big inclusions. They're
huge, massive. And from what I've heard as well, if Unsworth is given the gig past the international break, apparently we're going to play Barkley up front. And that's something you and I have called for a very fucking long time as well. And I guess it could offer something different, because he's so strong. He's been in the gym for so long. Because it's all been legs, hamstrings and calf injuries that he's really been having. So imagine the upper body strength he's got right now.
Well, he came back from when he'd done his broken leg, and then he was quite a strong-bodied player. Obviously, he wasn't really part of the first team then. Somewhat he was, but not really. Yeah. But you could already tell. We can tell he doesn't really get the accolades and stuff on games like FIFA and stuff. But his strength is a very, very strong player. Very, very strong player.
He's one of then a lot of Everton players, even England players as well, when they're doing interviews and they say who would you have in your 5-a-side team and all that stuff. A lot of people say Barkley, and they say because he's so good at holding players off the ball when he's got the ball at his feet. And you sort of think I see him as our future number 10 for a very long time if he signs the contract, obviously. But you sort of think we sort of need someone to stick up front right now who can just hold off defenders and lay it off to players like Sigurdsson, Lookman, Morales, now Lennon, Calvert-Lewin and stuff like that, and even create chances for themselves. And I honestly do see Barkley as Barkley's 6'1" as well. So it's not like he's small. So if he can, and he's obviously been working really hard in gym and stuff, and he's going to make sure he's 110% fit before he comes back. So he'd obviously have a spring in his step to leap up and win headers as well. So I reckon it's a great shout to put him up front until we get that recognised striker coming in January, because as much as I love Barkley and I'd put him in the number 10 ahead of anyone in our squad right now, we need someone to put up front, and I wouldn't be against having Barkley up front with Sigurdsson behind him.
Well, we'll talk about Benny Benigmi
Mm.
because he is an exceptional young talent. Lots been said about him through Unsworth when he was the under-23s manager. Obviously heard a lot about him, given his full debut against Chelsea last week, and then his Premier League debut coming on as a half-time sub against Leicester. Certainly a meteoric rise to fame for him is, wasn't really part of it or even in discussions to be part of it at the start of the season, and all of a sudden he's arguably our best player over the last two games.
Yeah.
So he certainly a rise to fame. We speak about all action defensive midfielders, someone that can go up and down, be a really strong tackler, get stuck in, can pass the ball, is very smart. And you think of all those attributes, and the first player you probably think of in that role is Idrissa Gueye,
Yeah.
albeit he has been slightly off this season. But you look at Benny Benigami, and he is literally the reincarnation of Idrissa Gueye in a more fierce way.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be racist or anything like that, but in the way that they play, it's unbelievable. No, I just thought people might think because they're both black, but he's an unbelievable player. And you mentioned it before, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a start against Lyon. He's fully deserved it, and we've always been big advocates of players who deserve a spot in the team. If they're playing well enough, they deserve to start. Ahead of players that are probably more acclaimed and out of form. And you look at players like Schneiderlin and Idrissa Gueye, who have somewhat been out of form so far in the current moment. And Benny Benigmi is playing well. So would you thrust him in ahead of them or potentially next to Idrissa Gueye or someone like a Davy Klassen who we haven't seen for a while, or Tom Davies again, given a chance to sort of rectify his performance against Leicester as soon as possible and play them next to each other? Because I know that they probably have a little bit of experience, especially Davies and Benigami between them. I would assume they've played at some stage together next to each other in the 21s.
Yeah.
Maybe the start of last season or something like that. So it is probably not a bad shout just to thought of thrust them in next to each other in centre midfield against a very strong Lyon team. And we do need that. We've been calling for that defensive midfielder next to a sort of box-to-box midfielder. And Davies and Benigami are probably the two players you'd think of. Maybe even Benigami and McCarthy next to each other with Sigurdsson ahead of them. And probably, I think a lot of Evertonians would get a kick out of seeing Benigami again. But at the moment, he's certainly been one of our better players. And would you put him in, maybe start him from the start or bring him off the bench or something like that against Lyon?
I'd honestly start him. I see the Lyon game as a huge opportunity for us, for one, to get the fans back on side. And there's no better way, obviously, other than a win, to get the fans back on side than to blood some youth into the team while getting that win. If we can blood players like Benigami, Lookman, if we can start players like Benigami, Lookman, Davies, and maybe Holgate and Kenny, and still get the 3 points somehow, then that's probably the best way to get the fans back on side with you and get the fans up and about and happy. So I'd start him 100%. I think he's been fantastic when he's been given the chance in both games. He was one of our best against Chelsea last week, and he was fantastic in the second half for us. I don't remember him really doing anything too wrong in the second half for us as well. And he did what I called upon as well. He stopped a really quick counter-attack from Leicester on the weekend as well. And it's just one of those ones where he was on the pitch potentially if he started, and maybe he could have prevented our first goal. So, and he doesn't have... I'm not saying, obviously, he's better than Schneiderlin yet or anything like that, but Schneiderlin looks for way too many sideways passes where... How many times on the weekend did you see Benigami sideways pass it? Every single time he gets the ball to his feet, he's looking forward and looking for that forward pass. I reckon in the last 10 minutes, there was a good five to six occasions where he got the ball to his feet and he looked right in front of himself for Sigurdsson. And he passed it straight to Sigurdsson's feet, and Sigurdsson made something potentially happen. So I think he's very talented, especially for his age, to have that awareness of him. And it speaks for itself, the fact that Congo are already wanting to call him up, but he hasn't decided his international future yet. so he's not going to get called up for the international just yet. But he's 19 years of age, and Congo are already looking to call him up to the international squad. So I think that speaks for itself realistically on where he's at. Yeah, exactly. So, and like I said earlier as well, he's in the same boat sort of as Kenny, Calvert-Lewin, Lookman and Davies, where the more you play him, the more confidence he'll get. And if he can start against Lyon and put in another fantastic performance against Lyon, he could almost go close to cementing that spot as his own. And he's only played 3 games for us. Because if he comes out, if he starts against Lyon and he dominates, how do you take him out of the team? And he could honestly be keeping players like Klassen, Davies and Schneiderlin all on the bench. Because he could have, and McCarthy as well.
It's what Tom Davies done last season.
Yeah, exactly right. And they're both the exact, like he's the same age as wait, is Davies still 19 or is he 20 now? Who knows?
I think Davies is 19.
Yeah, so and we don't want to rely on youth too much, but it's a testament to how good our youth actually is, for one, because I honestly wouldn't be against if Dow was still here. I wouldn't be against going to Lyon and starting a midfield triangle of Benigamy, Davies and Dow. And they're all like 19 years old. So I think that's a testament to how good our youth is. And then, but I guess the senior players can learn something from that. It's just sort of frustrating that Benigamy is in a position that right now that's the only real position, like centre mid and attacking mid are the only 2 positions where we don't exactly need right now. Like, I would just wish that he was a striker. Like, I wish we could just have a striker in the under-21s right now that is just, like, banging in, like, 50 goals every week.
Well, we have that in the under-23s. We've got Fraser Hornby, who's... he might be playing under-18s, actually. He's banging him at under-18 level, so he could go up into the 23s pretty quickly. He's only 17 years old. Big raps for him. Harry Charsley, we haven't heard of for a while. Someone that could potentially be moulded into a striker role, but he's more of a number 10. Does score a fair few. Basala Sembia. Big raps.
He's very good as well. Yeah. It's just...
Obviously
it's so
not
obvious.
Yet, but he's
it's
someone
so obvious what we need right now, because I have no idea what was going through our board's mind when we didn't sign a number 9 in the transfer window. And the thing is, Sandro is not bad. I honestly don't think Sandro is bad. And he hasn't played for like a month. And he's not injured. So something must have happened on the trading pitch or something between him and players or him and the manager or someone, because he's fully fit. Every single training session I see Everton doing on Twitter and stuff like that, he's there running around going nuts and banging balls he's banging balls top corner. So I don't know what has happened there. He scored 14 goals last season for Malaga in a pretty defensive, like, La Liga is not exactly the biggest defensive league, but it's not easy to score 14 goals in it. And I don't understand why he's just been completely tossed away, because we're sitting here thinking, where can we score goals from? Well, we've signed a bloke from Malaga who scored 14 goals last season. What is wrong with, for the next 2 games, he probably won't, obviously, but what's wrong with, for Lyon and Watford on the weekend, giving Sandro 180 minutes? If he stinks the place up, he stinks the place up. Like, fair enough. But if he could come out and score, us a winner at Lyon, or he could come out and score us a winner at against Watford, and then you're sitting there thinking, where the fuck's he been the last month? But if he's shit, then he's shit. Like, we're already not playing him anyway, so there's another option, but we're not using him. So it doesn't make sense to me that we're completely tossed Sandro out, because so many people were looking at Sandro as a signing like, oh yeah, that's a bargain. And now we've signed him for like 6 mil and he's played like 5 games for us, or if that. And we've just completely tossed him out the window. And Davy Klassen, we signed for 25 mil and he's played just over 200 minutes in the Premier League this season.
It's not ideal. We'll move on here to Lyon. We'll talk about that. Obviously a big game. We have to win it if we stand any chance of progressing out of the group stage of the Europa League. You'd think anyway, unless we come out and win the next three, which, realistically speaking, Lyon and at Atlanta at home and then Apple away, depending on how we're going, that could be something that's achievable, but we would rather not get ourselves in that situation.
We've already played Lyon at home. We've only got 2 games left after this.
Oh, have we? Fuck, I forgot.
We have to win this.
Well, this is definitely a must-win. How we go against Lyon at home? Oh, we lost.
We lost 2-1. Remember we had a fan that chinned one of the Lyon players?
Oh, yeah. We shouldn't have lost that game. Anyway, it's a big game, obviously, for different reasons. If we lose, we're out 100%. Don't think there's any way back from there. Could then present a good opportunity to play some of the fringe/youth players against Atalanta and Apoel, which couldn't be a bad thing, but at the same time, you'd rather still be in the competition and progressing. So there's that. I don't think we're going to go there and get a result, personally speaking. I think this is it. I think we'll probably go there and lose. I think this is regardless of who's manager. If it's most likely Unsworth, unless Dyche has been announced by then. Even then, Dyche might not take control of the game against Lyon and give it to Unsworth and then take control of the Watford game. I personally think we're going to give Unsworth Watford as well, and then Dyche is going to take over in the international break. But look, it's a good opportunity. Again, we mentioned Benigami could start. It's a good chance to give maybe Klassen some minutes. Sandro, you mentioned, in probably a format that's probably going to suit them more so than the Premier League. And it's a good opportunity to give them a bit of confidence and a bit more game time to really adjust to the team, because obviously the Premier League's a tough league to get into. We've seen Klassen struggling for minutes, Sandro struggling for minutes. Who else came from abroad that we're missing? If anyone. Maybe not anyone.
Lukaku.
Yeah. The 2 big ones, Sandro and Klassen. Obviously, struggling for minutes in the Premier League, maybe just not quite up to standard to play in the Premier League just yet. The physicality is obviously much higher than the Dutch league and whatever league Sandro came from, the Spanish league. So it's obviously tough, but it's an opportunity to give him some minutes and to really gel in the team. News out of the team regarding that is that Morgan Feeney has been promoted from the 23s to the seniors for this tie. I'm not sure if it's a permanent thing or if it's
just quietly. I've gone with a very inexperienced back four.
All right, let's just hear it.
I've gone Pickford in goals, Kenny, Holgate, Jagielka, and Feeney across the back. I reckon that's a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 30-something-year-old, and a 19-year-old Feeney, I think. So, Benigami and Klassen in the central midfield with Lookman, Sigurdsson, Morales across the attacking midfield, and Sander up front. Probably won't happen. I reckon probably 3 of those players will probably start, but
maybe see Vlasic. Who knows?
Oh yeah, I forgot about Vlasic. He can start ahead of Morales. That'd be a really young team to squad.
Why not?
There's no point. Like, we're out. Like, I don't care what anyone could say. Like, I know we're only 3 points away from second, but we're out. We're not progressing the way we're at right now. If we can progress, then we can progress. But in my opinion, we're out. And Lyon are a very good team, and they have a fantastic home record. I think they've only lost 3 games at home in the last 2 seasons. So, in the last season and a half. So, yeah, I can't see us going to Lyon and winning.
It doesn't bode well at all.
They have a really good stadium, and apparently there's 10,000 Everton fans travelling as well. So, we're lost.
Yeah, I think I'm going to put us down for a loss. There's really not much we can say about this game because realistically, we're only hoping we play a young team and somehow we can get a result because all the young players want to play well. Well, the 23s just lost to Mansfield 1-0 this morning, so...
Best idea then, is it?
Maybe we shouldn't do that.
Mansfield, fucking hell.
I think Mansfield. I think that's who it was.
Christ, that's a bit grim.
It was without, obviously, the stars of the 23s and Benigami.
No Unsworth.
No Unsworth, yeah.
Yeah, look.
I don't know who else missing here. Garbett didn't play.
23s are getting relegated now.
Yeah, imagine.
Took Unsworth and
He was in the Checker Trade trophy, in fairness.
Just quietly, we bring in Dyche, because I reckon we will. Dyche will come in over the international break, I reckon. Do you reckon Unsworth stays under him, or do you reckon Unsworth goes back to 23s?
I don't know.
Well, it could be.
It'll
be up to Dyche, I reckon.
Well, Dyche wouldn't have an assistant manager, so depends if the Burnley staff want to head to Everton halfway through the season.
We'll just have a chat about that as well for a second. Who do you want to bring in? Like, are you all right with Dyche coming in? I'd rather him over Allardyce and Moyes for one.
Oh, fucking nice. Well, I don't know.
He's not exactly a name that jumps out at you, but I feel like with the position we're in right now, he is the sort of manager that will just get us back to doing the basics. And it's a weird one. Like, I don't see him as a manager that could take us forward into like being a top 6 team, but I can see him just getting us back to doing basics, getting players to play for the shirt. If he needs to keep Unsworth under him, in my opinion. So I don't see us getting like an Arteta. Well, obviously we want Tuchel, but we're not going to get him.
We just have to look back to last season, for example, where Burnley struggled away and were good at home under Dyche. Now, this season, they've been very good away from home.
We were as well. We were shit away at home last season, and we were fantastic at home.
So we're very similar about the last season of Burnley. This season, they've turned that around, and they're not as good at home. They're still good at home, but they're not as good. But away from home, they've been very good. And I think Everton's been lacking probably since Moyes, I would say, would be our away form's always been average. I think Martinez's first season, we had a good away record, but that was probably it. So it's something we need to work on, our away record. And if Dyche is at Burnley getting results away, he obviously has figured out a system that they can win or draw, keep a result against a big team away from home. Even like a team like Leicester, no disrespect to them, but they're not a big team. They've won the Premier League, sure, but they're not a big team. And it's a sort of team that we realistically, on paper, are a better team than. Player by player, we're probably a better team than them. And if Dyche can come in and produce some defensive stability and a setup that works away from home to get us confidence there, I have no issues with our home form. I think, of course, we lost to Burnley, which is funny, but
it's not funny at all.
It's not funny, but it's funny that Dyche is, doing that. But imagine if Dyche comes in and we get relegated by 2 points, and it's because, or 1 point, and it's because of Burnley beating us earlier in the season.
At least he'd get us back up because he's good at doing that. He's all right at Championship.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm pretty torn on it completely. I have told you before I wouldn't even be bothered if Unsworth took the reins for the remainder of the season.
What are your thoughts on Barton calling Unsworth the glorified PE teacher?
No, Barton's a twat. I think everyone knows that.
I reckon it's hilarious.
Oh, it is hilarious, but he's a twat regardless.
Yeah, that's fair enough. We're not getting Tuchel. Apparently Tuchel's basically said no.
Doesn't surprise me.
And apparently Ancelotti could be interested.
Ancelotti's obviously an interesting one. It's just be interested to see how he performs in this sort of calibre of player as opposed to the stars he was so used to having.
Well, we have stars. We've
got stars, but we haven't got stars that could walk into like a Man United and be a star, if that makes sense.
We did last year. Lukaku, he walked into United.
Lukaku, yeah, but at the moment. Who would be the one player at the moment that would leave the club to become a star of a big team? That could. I would probably say... I would say in 2 years, Pickford.
Barkley,
yeah, maybe. There's not many.
I reckon with like a proper centre back next to him, I reckon Keane could fit in at a lot of clubs.
I feel like Keane would be a good fit at United. I know he was there before, but probably go back and do a good job.
Yeah, it's just I don't care. We're going to get relegated.
Same as Coleman. The Lassie could be a star.
Coleman's the best right. I don't even care what anyone says. In a few weeks, we're going to have the best right back in the Premier League. So
the most
Coleman is so good.
People right winger as well.
People forget how good Coleman actually is before he got his leg snapped in half. Could have put that in a better term, but at the same time, it's true. Like, Coleman was genuinely the best right back in the Premier League for about 3 years, and now the best right back in the Premier League is Antonio Valencia.
Who was good, young. I mean, realistically.
I don't understand how he became good. He was so shit, for a few years, and now he's the best right back in the Premier League.
We'll see. We'll hope Coleman comes back sometime soon. Let's hope there's no setbacks. I think we'll wrap it up there. Yeah. Good luck to Morgan Feeney, who hopefully makes his debut against Lyon. And Benigami, who hopefully makes his debut. We upgraded
Hennon to the senior squad a few weeks ago, and he hasn't gone anywhere near starting.
Well, Hennon could be in the squad for this one, I don't know. Realistically, Hennon used to play for Monaco, didn't he? Or someone in the French league?
He played in the Belgian league. He played for Anderlecht.
I think he used to play for Olympiacos as well, so we're well off here.
Greece isn't too far from France.
Yeah.
Is it?
No, cool.
Greece isn't far from Italy, and Italy's not too far from Greece.
Yeah. All right.
I think I just said the same thing.
Somewhat. We'll be back in the next episode of the School of Science. Follow us on Twitter on SOSCF1878, something like that. And on Podbean, Flick and the Bean all season long. We'll be back in the next episode. Until then, Jake.
Up the fucking top.